Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek. I'm your co-host, Zach Badger Davis, and sitting to my right today is...
Hi, I'm Julianachauncey, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Sitting across from me today is...
Hi, I'm Elise, a.k.a. Sauce.
She's back! All right, Chaunce, this is your deal. Question of the day.
Yes, I was thinking about this on the Colorado Trail because there was a lot of mosquitoes flying around, like one of those where you hop in your tent and you zip it really fast to try to make sure that they don't get you.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I was walking the next day, like for some reason, I feel like I heard somewhere that like a fly's lifespan or a mosquito's lifespan is only like 24 hours. Does that sound accurate to you?
That, I think, is a fruit fly, right?
Oh, can you Google it? How long does
shit.
I
this is
Googled
part of it.
The last time you guys had me
Oh,
Google
you did
anything.
Google it? How
I
long
pre-
does a mosquito live?
So, according to Google, if it dies a natural death, it can live up to a month, but typically it's more like a week.
Okay, a week. Let's assume they live for a week.
Yeah.
Why is it not that like on these campsites where it's just mosquito swarms, where are the bodies? You know, like wouldn't you look down and if there's so many mosquitoes in the air, like wouldn't you just like see them on the ground after they've all croaked?
It's pretty small.
Yeah, but think of how many there are, and every week they die.
Yeah. They also probably, like, the wind blows and they get just blown wherever. Like, there's probably a bush somewhere that does collect them.
You think there's like a mass gravesite of mosquitoes and they just bring themselves to it?
I just think, like, a blade of grass, like, it's not going to stay static. I think it'll move. I don't know. It's a fair question.
I just don't know. I don't know.
I think they get eaten
That's another good point.
by
Is it like
bats and birds and
even after they
fish.
die?
Probably.
Are bats
That's
vultures?
why they go away. I would assume before they die. I think
I
that's
could
why
see,
they
like,
the natural
frogs eating
death
them.
is rare.
Yeah.
She said she was coming with a theory, and I was wondering what it was.
Uh-oh, let's go. Is it conspiracy
Yeah.
theory?
No,
it's just
animals eat them.
bugs eat them.
Oh, that was the theory.
Other
Yeah.
bugs.
I got really
It makes
excited
so
for a
much
conspiracy
sense.
theory. I
Spiders.
thought we were going to Alex
I didn't
Jones.
think about that. Oh, spiders. That's
I'm
so
sure there's a
true.
conspiracy theory about mosquitoes
They
somewhere.
probably
on the
do a
internet,
little
but-
sweep at night.
What, is it mosquitoes have killed more people than people have killed people? It's something insane like that. Like the number one
Wow.
cause for human death is mosquitoes, and it's not. The number two is not close. Like it's way more than war.
I hate
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was heart disease.
them. Nope.
No. Well, let's look it up.
I can't wait for what it actually is.
Hopefully there's no problematic Googling this time.
Yeah. No more. I won't even say the word because I'm already on the list. So I don't want to make it worse. Causes of death, our world in data. Oh, this is like not. I need like BuzzFeed. Like put it in my mouth right away. That's what she said. So this is. Oh wait. Okay. So cardiovascular disease is number one. Cancer's two. Respiratory disease. Where's the
mosquito, Zach?
so malaria. I think this is all time. So I think as medications improved, mosquitoes have moved down this list.
Surely, as medications improve, so has cardiovascular disease.
No,
Right?
not the
Don't you
not
think?
the
It's gotten
case.
worse.
Yeah, it's gotten way worse because McDonald's has gotten better at a rate that's faster than
We've gotten
aspirin.
hungrier.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, as we spend more time indoors staring at our computers, cancer becomes a thing, and mosquitoes become less of a thing. But
Hope you're excited for the episode.
yeah. Damn, there's so many links here that I want to go down, but we have another subject that we need to get to that's not actually.
Well, I'm satisfied with Elise's reasoning. It really bothered me for a couple of miles.
I'm so satisfied.
It took me a second. I really thought about it because I was concerned as well. It was, why is the ground not covered in dead
Yeah.
mosquitoes and flies?
Chaunce and I usually have very crackpot ideas, and then Elise comes in with like the most sane, level-headed approach. We're
Reasonable,
like, oh yeah, that's
like,
definitely
rational.
what it is. That's definitely what it is. Reminders, yes. I don't know if you got the news yet, but this trio here is headed to Wisconsin, middle of October, for the Mammoth Hike Challenge to hike the Ice Age Trail. And if you guys listened to the previous episode, you're aware that we're hosting a meetup in Delafield on Wednesday at 6:30. Did I get those details right? Somebody fact check
That sounds
me.
really right.
What we haven't given the details for yet is our second public event, which is, drumroll, a live podcast.
Woo!
So this is going to be at the Hop House in Fitchburg, which is very close to Madison. So all the Madisonites need to come out. All the Milwaukeeites need to come out. All the Chicagoans need to come out. If you live in Atlanta, you should probably come out. If you live in Seattle, you should, just come hang out with us and get a live podcast. We have a top secret guest who will be bringing the funk for this one. It's just going to be a good time. So we're going to do the live podcast. We're going to do a little bit of a meet and greet afterward. People will be drinking. Fun will be had. Cheese will be eaten.
Things will be given away.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to have swag at both of these events. There's lots of reasons to come.
Podcast might get a bit interactive with the audience.
Not least of which, at least at the first event, Chaunce is going to whip out her famed carnival barking.
Yes, if you have not been to Trail Days to see it, it is embarrassing.
Yeah. Trail Days or San Diego.
Oh, yeah. So, you forget.
I can understand why you forgot that one. I can
that
understand
much.
it. Yeah. More stuff to come from the Wisconsin road trip, but those are the two big public events that we're super excited about, and we're not going to stop talking about Wisconsin between now and Wisconsin. Sorry about it. Okay. Today's subject is, I think, a very popular one. People who are curious how people get into the thru-hiking world. This is probably the most common question, if not the top one, certainly in the top 3. And that is, how do you afford a thru-hike? I think very simply, you could break it down and say you save more than you spend, which is how you afford anything in life, whether it's a thru-hike or a spacecraft. Mm-hmm. Chaunce, do you have any spacecrafts?
Not on hand.
Okay. But obviously, saving for a thru-hike, not an easy thing. Not only you're not earning income for a half year, but you have to save enough money to be able to survive without any income for that period. So it takes a lot of planning. We're going to go through some of the best tips for not only how to save in advance for this, but some of the top pitfalls that people make both before their thru-hike and during their thru-hike and even a little bit after their thru-hike. So without any further ado, Chaunce, give us your first tip.
Yes. So I have mentioned this on a couple of episodes scattered throughout the years. Still hasn't changed. I use the app Capital. It's spelled with a Q, Qapital.
Is that where you got your anti-vax beliefs? Is from like a QAnon website?
This is going over my head.
You're not familiar with QAnon?
No, I am. I just not super.
That's
there's
what
also
all
Acorns.
the QAnon people say.
There's also Acorns was the one you mentioned? Acorns?
Acorns.
Yeah, there's also Acorns. There's other apps that do it, but basically what the app does is you link your debit card or your credit card or whatever, and you set rules for it. So mine has a rule set where whenever I spend anything, it rounds it up to the nearest dollar, and then the change that it rounds up goes into this account. So it's a really good oh shit fund, but it's also a really good saving for different things funds.
Is it purely a savings account, or can it go into an investment account?
You can now, so back when we first mentioned it in 2018, it was just a savings account, but now you can put it into investments. So you can put it into stocks and different things like that. If I look at mine, because you can set different rules, you could set it to set aside some of your paycheck or, however you want to organize it. But I have one for the Sierra from when we did the JMT. I've got one for the AT. Those are kind of just trail ones now. I've got one called When All Hell Breaks Loose. So that's when I'm just fuck. I've got one that says Save Your Money. So I'm just not supposed to touch that. And then I've got one that's miscellaneous travel.
So you have all of your savings account through Capital?
No.
Oh,
that's just the stuff that I don't realize rounds up.
Got it.
So that's you forget about it.
Yeah.
You forget it exists.
Yeah.
Except when all hell breaks loose, then you're oh my God, there it is.
Yeah.
But then when you want to do a trail or something and you go and you open it, you're oh my God, over this time I saved up this much and I didn't even know. So it's a nice thing to do on the side where you set it and forget it and then you check back.
So does it just round to the nearest dollar?
That's the rule I have set. You can set it to round to the nearest $2 and then it puts $1 and some change aside, or the nearest $3. You can set it where it takes a percentage of your paycheck. And when it sees that it auto deposits, it'll take that percentage. That's good for people who freelance and need to set aside money for taxes.
Yes, those estimated payments are a motherfucker.
Yeah, I learned that.
I just made some up and started throwing money at the IRS.
I started crying.
Crossing my fingers.
The H&R Block woman made me cry.
Another question is, do they take a fee? What's their revenue model?
I don't know. So I'm grandfathered in from having used it since the dawn of time. So they're just happy to have me, but I don't know what they do now.
I know that Acorns was charging $1 a month. Now they are upping it.
Yeah, it's hard
might
to
make me switch.
$1 per month. You'd have to have a lot of users for that.
And they'd have to have a pretty low amount of money for it to be competitive with a lot of the other apps. I feel charge percentages. And so $1 a month was incredibly cheap for the amount of money I have in Acorns.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, sweet. That sounds like a cool app. I have a feeling that'll parlay very nicely into Elise's first tip. But I'm going to break the flow a little bit. Are you done?
Oh, yeah, that was it. If you want to start your book.
Actually, a long book here, but before I do, another service, which is, I think, similar but still pretty different, Wealthfront is an automated savings account which does like a diversified investment portfolio for you. Basically, it's like having a financial advisor investing your money for a very low fee. I've switched to that in the last couple of years, and it's really good. Much better than a typical Wealthfront.
Acorns does the robo-advising too.
Does.
And then so does Betterment if you're interested in another option.
Elise is our resident
I can't wait to
finance person. She knows more about the subject than both Chaunce and I combined by a lot.
I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, I was going to say, I
Definitely not a
can't wait till you
stretch.
guys hear all the things she knows.
And just for full disclosure, none of the companies that are mentioned are sponsors of the show. We just use them and like them.
Yeah. And
if
also,
if they would like to sponsor the show, that would be cool. But as of right now, they've not paid us.
we should probably also say we're not like qualified to give
Yeah.
financial advice.
Oh, yeah.
You're definitely not
Like I have
financial
no
advisors.
qualifications for this.
Yeah, let's give the
This is
proper
not-
disclosure.
Yeah, what else do we disclose?
We are not financial advisors. This is not investment advice.
We have
I'm
to
pretty
disclose
sure.
that Elise is not a ginger. In case you're not watching the videos that we're putting on YouTube, you do need to know that about her.
Let's take it a step further. Everything we say is wrong.
Yes.
Do the opposite of it. If you follow our advice, you'll probably end up in a ditch or inside a large mammal.
Yes. Okay, I think we're safe.
Now that we've said that,
Yeah.
here's the next super important advice. I think this is one that I want to go with first because I got sucked into it, is knowing where to splurge on gear. And I know the subject is how to save money for a thru hike, but believe it or not, spending up for the right items is going to save you money. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think it'll make sense in a second. So if I had a nickel for every time I've seen someone start the AT with a budget tent or sleeping bag, and I'm projecting here, this was me, only to swap out for the higher quality option within a couple weeks of starting. And oftentimes this is at mountain crossings where a great service, they definitely help out a lot of thru hikers, but not on par price-wise with like your REIs or budget online retailers of the world. So not only you're buying these nicer items at mountain crossings or something similar, but you're paying a premium to do so because they know they have a very captive audience. So that's a very, very, very common thing. A lot of people think going into a thru hike that the weight doesn't matter, the quality doesn't matter, they can just get by with whatever, and then they very quickly discover that that's a bad mentality. Do the research and don't make that mistake. Don't buy the $150 tent, use it for 10 days, and then buy the $400 tent. Just buy the $400 tent up front and save yourself that extra $150 because that'll get you through 3 to 4 towns. Obviously, there's caveat. Unless your budget is ridiculously thin, then in the long run, you're going to save much more money by buying second market. I think I'm probably stepping on the toes of somebody else's advice here, so I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole, but there's a lot of really good second market options for gear. You don't have to buy the brand new Big Agnes tents, and we can talk about some of the specifics when it gets to that turn. Am I stepping on someone's toes here?
I think I might have put that as like an honorable mention.
Okay. Well, we should definitely cover that at some point.
You
or
can
maybe
go into it. I'm fine.
Well, so I think the obvious one is like the REI garage sale. That I know a lot of people are familiar with that. There's other comparable
this is a
things. Yeah. There's the Facebook marketplaces.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of, if you go on Facebook and you search like gear, used, buy, sell, any of that, there are a couple of different ones. There's ultralight things that people are selling from their hikes or that they didn't use or that they swapped out. And it might just be something that someone only set up once.
Yeah. And obviously, like driving a car off the lot, it's going to degrade in value by 15-20%. So like you're already getting a 20% savings and something's basically in top quality. You're obviously losing the warranty when you go that route, but if you do your research and you're getting the right piece of gear, then it's not an issue.
Well, there's also like a lot of the ultralight companies will have a policy where like once you've used it, you can't return it if it's especially if it's like custom made. So a lot of the times you can find things that are almost even better than the ones that you can actually return to REI because it's stuff that people might have used way less. They just don't have the option of returning it. So then you get it on the used places a lot, newer and nicer.
That's a great point. In the last panel episode that we did, I mentioned that it's common for people to buy like the 202 version of a shelter, the trekking pole tent shelter. And a lot of people realize that that's beyond their skill set early on. So they're the ones who are they're selling those, panic selling those, and then going to buy the Big Agnes or the Nemo. So there's always opportunities to, find some holes in the market. And if you've got the time and the due diligence to like follow through on this stuff, there's ways to do it. So there's obvious ways to save money by buying the more expensive gear. I think a shelter and a sleeping bag are the two most obvious options. Like those are really important quality items to have. You're going to save a lot of weight. The durability is going to be there. The ease of use is going to be there. The weight and space are the two biggest items by far and away. But those are the ones you want to definitely spend up on. There's some other things that you do want to spend up on, which it's hard to give like a blanket recommendation for. Footwear is one of those things. Like that's very individual. You're going to hear a lot of people rave about Ultras. For some people, Ultras will fuck up your feet. Like they're not adapted to the zero drop, or they have a heavier pack and they need to sturdy your boot. So that's something you'll have to go to a running store, or you're just going to have to experiment with a lot of things. And another thing to keep in mind about this specific tip is that your feet are going to change during the course of your thru hiking pretty quickly too. Not only your feet are going to swell, but you're going to lose the arch in your foot, which is going to cause it to grow anywhere from like a half a size to, I think the biggest I've heard someone say is they went up 2 sizes.
I had a friend who went up 2 sizes.
I went up a size and a half.
I went up a half size.
I think I went up a full size. So that's a good display of the range. I think 2 sizes is the biggest I've heard. Email us, podcast@thetrek.co if you're some sort of weird anomaly.
Send photos.
Yeah, send us foot photos.
Before and after.
We will pay. So yeah, I could go further down the rabbit hole. For sleeping bag and quilt, get something from a quality brand. Enlightened Equipment, they are a sponsor. Catabatic, not sponsors, Feathered Friends, Western Mountaineering.
I'm an ambassador of Catabatic. Do I have to say that? Since we're doing disclosures.
No, it's my recommendation, okay, so you don't, but you can disclose that. Although, yeah, all of those are great brands.
Super great, yeah.
You're not going to go wrong with any of those. I'm sure there are others that I haven't mentioned, so they're not the only great brands. Do your research. But if you've got the ability to spend up on the big 3 items called Big 4, you can get by with a cheap sleeping pad if you don't mind sleeping on that foam piece of shit. Do so. Like, spend quality, because it's going to make a huge difference on your enjoyment for the trip and your likely success for actually finishing it.
I will piggyback that to jump back to mine. If you know that you want to spend up on certain items, like on one of these apps, you can set different categories like I did. So you can set one that sets aside for a tent. You can set one that sets aside for backpack, set one that sets aside for sleeping bag, and then make one that sets aside for like emergency. And then you can have, when you go to get it, certain categories where it's like, okay, this is how much I saved for my pack. This is how much where I saved for my sleeping bag. So you're not just looking at this big lump sum and deciding what to put where. You're pre-deciding what are the things that you want to invest more on. Yeah, great point. And another piggyback, I guess, on my original one, is there's definitely a good season to shop for this stuff too. Obviously, brands are discounting stuff heavily during the holiday shopping season. That's when they're trying to get in the Black Friday. So starting on Black Friday, pretty much all the way through January, there's going to be some insane discounts on this stuff. You can usually find the thing that you want at like anywhere from minimum 5% off all the way up to 30% off, depending on the size of the brand and all that. So yeah, don't pay full price, but get the good stuff. That's my tip. Get the good stuff for certain things. And we'll get further into that in the next round of advice. I'm going to stop talking because I'm talking too much, and I'm really excited for Elise's tip because I'm going to put my mic down and learn something. Yep.
I'm going to try not to ramble too much, but I guess for context, in November, I think it was, I learned about the concept of financial independence, and it really sent me down a personal finance rabbit hole. And just to give you a quick overview of what that is, it's basically that once you have enough money invested, you can live off the returns of your investments, basically, or like withdrawing a certain amount from your portfolio over time, and it will never deplete to zero. And the reason they know that is this thing called the 4% rule. Some people did a study, basically that how much you need to have invested and how much you can withdraw without it depleting to zero over a 30-year time span. So basically, they ran a whole bunch of different numbers, blah, 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 and they came up with 4% rule, which is adjusted for inflation. So basically, what that means is you can withdraw 4% of your investments every year and there's a 95% chance your investments won't go to zero. So basically, you figure out how much you spend in a year, you multiply that by 25, and then that's your financial independence number, which basically means you could become work optional if that's what you want.
So is the goal for the investments to not go to zero, or for the investments to remain steady?
So for most people, they will remain steady and even increase.
Yeah.
But that's just the way they ran the study, was how do they not go to zero, basically? What is the sweet spot for making sure they don't deplete?
So if you withdraw more than that, you're at risk of actually draining the investment.
Yes. So say you bump up to 4.5%, you could eventually go down to zero if you do that year over year.
Got it.
But then there's also, I mean, the number can go up in like a bull market, for example. So if investments are doing really well, you could maybe withdraw 5 or 6% in a year and not risk depleting your whole portfolio, basically. And there are people who are much smarter than me, which is basically the point of this tip, is there's this whole financial independence community that knows just a ton about how to optimize your savings and investing. One thing I will say is I wouldn't recommend investing for a Thru-Hike, because anything you want to do within like the next 5 or 10 years, you don't want to have that money invested because you don't know what the market will do. It's definitely like more of a long-term thing, like 10 years or more. But I think that whole community has so many resources on how to reduce your spending, increase your income, that it's really worth looking into in general. And also, if you like the idea of becoming work optional, which I feel like would be really appealing to a lot of Thru-Hikers, you can really dive into the whole financial independence thing if you want.
So I've actually perused that subreddit. I think I've subscribed to it, or whatever the terminology is. And I've noticed a lot of corollaries with the ultralight community in terms of they get fucking off the walls about like bragging about how low they can go. And that can be applied to either of those things, right? Like the ultralighters are like, I sawed my toothbrush down to just the bristle. And like the saving community is like, I moved in with my sister and I only eat dust off the floor. Like,
I think there's definitely a toxic side to it, for
sure.
sure. And yeah, I'm not suggesting to eat rice and beans and live out of your Subaru, although I think a lot of backpackers really would enjoy that and do that. So I'm not knocking it either. But yeah, there's definitely like a balance that you can find. But yeah, I think they have a lot of good tips, especially if you find someone who aligns with you that's in that community, and you can there's a lot of people who share all of their finances, and you can say, okay, this person lives in a similar cost of living city as me, and they have a similar job, and how do they make it work? Or just applying those rules to yourself. And that being said, if you're like me and incredibly anxious about the idea of retiring, I don't want to work forever. Yeah. Even the idea of working to 65 is overwhelming, but let's put that aside. There is this thing called QOTD, which basically means at a certain point you have enough invested that if you never invested another penny, you would be able to retire at 65 or whatever age it is that you're deciding. And there's calculators online that you can just Google, like QOTD or FI calculator, to figure out that number and stuff. But if you are thinking that you can't take time off from your job or something like that, maybe reaching QOTD would make you more comfortable and make you feel like, okay, I actually could take a year off, and it wouldn't stress me out to all ends of, I think that it brings me a lot of comfort knowing that having an idea of the amount that I need, basically.
Yeah. And I think something that is super relevant to 2021 is if you're working a desk job, a computer job, a remote job, is you can move to a very low cost of living location. Like I've heard a lot of stories about people that go and get like, 6-figure incomes, and then they move to some South American country where the cost of living is like a fifth of what it is here, and they're just racking up money. Like if you're trying to save for a Thru-Hike and you get to live in a beautiful place in the process, you could probably fund adventures for years doing that. Obviously, I understand people have ties to family and responsibilities and whatnot, but there's also a lot of people now that are freed up to do these sorts of things. You might just have to think outside the box or do something that might not be comfortable or normal in 2005 or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I mean, to save a lot of money, you are probably going to have to do things that are out of the norm or somewhat uncomfortable. Like you can't just keep living your life at the same pace you always have if you're already not saving. I guess if you're already saving a ton of money, you're fine and you don't need this podcast. But like, you're going to have to make changes, and that's just realistic. It's just a matter of figuring out what works for you and what makes sense for your situation.
I think this is something that we should like go deep on, because this is obviously the crux of saving for anything, a thru-hike included, is finding the luxuries that you can, finding ways to increase your savings and earn more money. And I think we're going to go down more the second one with one of Chaunce's tips, so I won't go too far in that direction. But in terms of savings, one important mindset that I'd like to point out to people is oftentimes in saving for a thru-hike, because you have that seed planted, the goal to motivate you to save the money, it's much easier to shave off luxuries in your pre-trail life, to not go out to the bar, to not go out to eat, to steal someone else's Netflix, borrow someone else's Netflix. Whatever ways you can find to cut corners, the emotional sacrifice for doing those things is going to pale in comparison to, not being able to go out to dinner with your friends on the trail when your trail family all has the budget to go to Outback Steakhouse or whatever it might be.
Or
like
getting off the PCT 700 miles in because you can't afford to finish.
Exactly.
And everyone else keeps hiking.
Exactly. So, if you have the choice between sacrificing pre-trail or on-trail, choose to sacrifice pre-trail. Like, you're just going to be so much more happier in your thru-hike. I will go deeper on that specific thing later, but given that making more money and saving more money is ultimately the top takeaway for this, I think it's worth like really hammering home the details on achieving that and why you should do it and the mentality of it.
I will say, like, I've seen, a number of people get off trail for different reasons and, like, the emotions behind it and this and that. The worst, like, hardest one to watch is someone who physically feels great, is handling the miles fine, loves the atmosphere, like, wants to be out there by all accords, and goes home because they can't afford to keep hiking. Like, if you go home because you're injured or because you actually realize it's not for you or you're having a bad time, that's one thing. But if you want to keep hiking and you're watching your friends continue to hike and you're not able to for something that you can't control when everything else is saying keep going, like, that sucks.
Yeah,
I agree completely. And I think this kind of parlays into one of my bonus points, but if you're the kind of person who needs very tangible motivation, maybe it would help to literally think of your purchases as trail equivalents. So, like, do I spend $20 on going to the brewery with my friends, or do I think of that as a night in a hostel on trail? Or, like, even bigger stuff, like $100 on whatever, some trendy dress or something that you want to spend. That could get you through, like Zach said earlier, like 2 or 3 towns, depending on how you resupply.
Another thing you could do is just take out the money you plan on spending each week. Like, budget how much you want to spend each week while you're saving in that pre-trail part, and withdraw the money. So it's like, if I want to try to spend $100, a week, for example, instead of just saying, okay, I'll do that on my cards, I'll swipe my debit when I go to the grocery store, I'll swipe my credit card when I get gas, take out the actual cash. Because when you're holding it in your hands and you're seeing yourself give it away and it slowly gets smaller in your hands, it's harder to be like, oh, let me get Starbucks for the 5th time this week, because you're actually giving it away instead of just swiping a card.
Totally agreed. That's, I think, very sound financial advice. There's a lot of advantages to using credit cards, and I think this will be a future Elise point as well, or maybe this is a bonus point.
It's a bonus,
okay.
Yeah.
But the primary advantage to not using cards, to Chaunce's point, is like, if you can tangibly see the amount of currency that you have, it's going to control the amount that you spend. Whereas, like, if you have a credit card, it's very easy to go outside your means. That's why credit cards use all those incentives to get you to use their banks, because
if you don't have a grip on that psychological factor, it's definitely can be harmful.
They make billions of dollars because people fuck that up all the time. Okay, Chaunce point number 2.
Yes. Where is it? Point number 2. Okay, so this one is budgeting smart on trail. I guess it's the perfect segue from Zach's. And not blowing money on earlier towns to make sure you have enough for the second part of your hike. So this goes back to, like, you don't want to be that person that gets halfway and realizes they don't have the budget to finish and then says, well, if I can't finish, I don't want to do, like, another 200 miles because I'd rather take that money home and then get back on my feet. Like, it's a spiral you'll go down once you realize you're not going to make it. So a lot of people, like, they will go hard in the beginning of the trail with the spending. Like, you get to the first 0 day, you want to get the hotel. You know, there's the cheap hostel that has the bunk beds, but you really want your own room, and you go for that, and then you go to town and you get the big meal because you're hungry. And then you finally made friends, so you go get a few beers with them. It's so easy to do that during the start of a trail, like, just because you're excited and it's new and it's fun and you're getting used to the tired parts, so you are splurging more on the comforts when you can find them. But then what happens is people get to the end of their hike and it's like, oh, I can't afford to go into this town because I need to make sure I get to the end. Or, oh, you know, like, I'm getting really crappy food from the grocery store because I can't afford to get, you know, stuff that I actually would be able to eat that I was eating in the beginning. So I would say, like, if possible, like, split your budget into smaller pieces. If you have, like, a spouse or, like, a trusted person, like a parent or someone that would hold on to it and then give it to you in increments, if you don't trust yourself, you know, say, like, okay, I have this amount for every quarter of the trail. And then you go into the first quarter with that quarter of it. And then the second quarter, you have that quarter of it. It makes it a lot harder to overspend in the beginning and leave yourself with less at the end.
I think that was one of my patent pending ideas back in the day, was the you have a debit card that only allows you to spend a certain amount per time. Actually, maybe that's a real business idea.
You can get that green light card, baby. That TV
is that already a thing?
Well, no, there's like a TV commercial of this credit card for kids that, like, your parents can, like, give you so you could see how to save. It's I don't know. But maybe you can get one of those kid cards that has those limitations on it and you're just your own child.
Yeah, sure. I also think an additional piggyback on Chaunce here. That's the word of the day, by the way. Let's do a sticker giveaway, impromptu one. The first 5 people to say piggyback in the Instagram comments for the episode get a sticker. We haven't given a sticker away in a minute.
No.
Is, at least for the AT and the PCT, most people hike northbound. The northern section of those trails is way more expensive than the rest of the trail.
Good point.
Going through New Hampshire and Maine and, like, all the resort towns in Oregon and Washington, like, you're going to blow through your budget super fast. The good counterpoint to that is that you're in better shape at that time. So, like, you're not having to stop every 30 to 40 miles to resupply. So you can be a little bit more strategic. But, you know, like, if your spirit's starting to wear thin, and you want that pizza dinner, it's going to cost you 50% more, maybe somewhere in that range, in these northern towns because of where you are geographically.
I'll piggyback off of yours, but one thing that I did on the second half of my hikes that felt nice is I saved my credit card points and I didn't spend them on anything. And then when I did the AT and the PCT, both of them, when I started getting to those later towns where I didn't want to spend the money, I would book through, like, the travel rewards. I would just book the place I would be staying in the upcoming town if it was a big enough one. Or if it was a small remote one, like, and there was, like, a motel or something, it helped even more to be able to book it. And then you can find ways where you can use, like, fake money as real money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, those credit card incentives are legit. Like, yeah, especially last year when no one was traveling and you're still spending money, at least most of us were. Probably a lot of people have got a good number of points. I don't want to assume that. Maybe not.
Also, as an anecdotal, like, horror story, I guess, in relation to the second half of the trail costing more, if you're like me and take too many zeros in the beginning and end up in Washington in October, I had to stay in Leavenworth for like 4 days. And that's expensive.
Ooh, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, if you're pushing seasons and you're coming towards the end of a season, you might get stuck in a town when you don't even realize it.
And there's no hostel there? You're staying at one of those,
no,
like,
it was closed.
Hotels.
I think there was a Trail Angel house or something that was no longer open. So we were staying, luckily we got there during a week because it was Oktoberfest. It was the weekday. So but still the hotels were pricey. And luckily, I had saved enough money that I could afford to stay for 4 days to wait out a storm. But if I hadn't saved that money, then there is the possibility of either me just having to go home at that point or, potentially, not putting myself maybe in a dangerous situation because I felt like I couldn't spend money on a hotel or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up. I'm curious to know. I'm going to Google right now what the closest stay in Leavenworth is, because that is like, explain the town. It's a German.
It's a German tourist town.
A Bavarian.
Bavarian.
So this is when I used the credit card points on. It was 2 of the guys' birthdays. And I got it was like one of those bougie little places. It was just like, everything's like that. And they ended up they sent to the room 2 bottles of sparkling cider because of how bougie it was, because it was the 2 guys' birthdays. And they were like excited. They were like, no one ever stays here. And we're like, because it's so expensive. Mm-hmm. But like, that's the type of places that are in Leavenworth.
So in 2 weekends, literally the cheapest stay that I'm seeing on Kayak, you've heard of it, $187 a night.
That sounds
accurate.
Completely accurate.
Yeah.
I think we got a deal for $120 or something because we were there during the week. But if we had happened to be there on a weekend, the guy was telling us they were $300 or $400 because it was Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah. So.
And the rest of the town is comparable in terms of eating out or whatever you might need to do. So yeah, be prepared. Mm-hmm. I forgot exactly.
And then in contrast, there are towns where you can spend $10 to sleep in a bunk bed and, buy your resupply at the Dollar General. But
for sure,
in those towns, choose those options. Don't go and stay in a hotel where you have your own room to yourself if you have the option of doing a bunk bed for a cheaper price, because you might need that hotel money down the road.
And we had a good way back in the heyday, all the way in 2017, when Airbnb is cheap. Airbnb is starting to get expensive. Like, it's comparable to hotels now.
I saw a meme yesterday that had, like, I guess Uber's listing taxis now as an option. And so it was like, we live in a day where Uber is more expensive than a taxi, and Airbnb is more expensive than just booking a hotel. And they're like so much for like sharing options.
Right. Yeah. It's like staying at a hotel, but you have to do your own dishes and start your laundry. It's like, this is not making as much sense anymore. Okay. Is there anything else that we wanted to do with wherever that point originated from?
No, I don't even know whose point we were on.
Yeah.
I think it was Chaunce, budgeting smart on trail.
Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, good job.
What's up? You're next.
So as a parlay from my first point of knowing where to spend, you also need to know where you can skimp, because there are certain gear categories where you do not have to get the nicest thing. And quite frankly, you could probably get the cheapest thing and be totally fine. Obviously, you're going to be carrying a little bit more weight in most of these circumstances, not all of them. But a few examples of gear categories where you can go budget and be totally fine because they're not essential to what you're doing. Get a cheap ass headlamp. Mm-hmm. You just need something that casts light. Mm-hmm. Base layer, you can go to a fucking
Merino
thrift store.
What was it, -33? They were pretty cheap.
That's still on the very pricey end, and they're sponsors of ours, our guys. But go to like a thrift store and get like a polyester nylon shirt.
Or go on one of the flea markets, the backcountry flea markets on Facebook.
Right. Like, you could legitimately get away with like a twice used Under Armour shirt from Goodwill for a through hike. Like, it just needs to be not cotton, essentially. Rain gear, obviously frog togs are super cheap. I want to say the full rain suit is like $30 or $40. Obviously durability issues with that, but a trail like the PCT where you're not going to necessarily need reliable rain protection often, frog togs are a great option. You even see frog togs a shit ton on the AT. So I brought a poncho for the Colorado Trail this time because I had Harper and I wanted to be able to put her under it too. And I didn't even plan on doing it. I just saw it at the checkout. It was one of those like just in the checkout, like one of those stupid little bins, and it worked great. And the Colorado Trail, it rains a lot. Yeah. Like that was probably the cheapest thing I could have gotten out of the rain options I've brought on trails, and it worked wonderfully. It's essentially a garbage bag. And it fucking does the job. Water filter, and by this I mean the Sawyer Squeeze is not expensive, and like if you take care of this, it'll last you the full through hike and potentially multiple through hikes. I forget what they're rated to. It's like a bajillion gallons, but it'll last a long ass time. An awful lot. Sunglasses for the AT, you could potentially get away without sunglasses at all, but if you want like a quality pair of sunglasses suitable for a through hike, you could use Gooder. Gooder's shades are $25. Like, I don't buy the $100 sunglasses unless you're a sunglass snob. Do the things that make you happy, but there's probably people out there that think like, I'm going to be exposed to the sun all the time. I need some very high quality lenses. Like, you can get polarized glasses that are going to do the trick for $25 from Gooder, or even like your local gas station or Walmart will have even cheaper polarized sunglasses. Yeah, Gooder is a sponsor, but I did wear the glasses they sent when I went on the Colorado Trail, and like they were falling off my head when I was setting up my tent. Like, I dropped them on the ground a million times. I think Harper stepped on them. Like, I rolled over them, and it was nice, like not giving a shit, like being like, they were $18 if I paid for them, but they would have been $18. Yeah.
And they didn't get scratched up. They didn't break. Like, they're that material where they're totally fine.
I will say for the price point on these sunglasses, the quality is really good. Even when they stop sponsoring us, my tune's not going to change. Like Chaunce Elise was using them before. You said you were using them on the PCT, right?
Yeah, they were at that outfitter that's in Kennedy Meadows.
Yeah, that's Yogi's outfitter, right?
I don't remember. I think it was 2.5 something adventures. I'm a bad
2-foot
I'm
adventures.
a bad through hiker for
2-foot
Yes.
adventures.
And they just happened. We all needed sunglasses, and they had them, so we each got a different color. My trail family. It was kind of cute.
Yeah. Again, tangenting, but so there's a lot of categories where you can get the cheapest thing and you'll be totally fine. Like there are certain things that are not essential, but very important to having a safe and happy through hike. The things that I just listed are not them. Just get the cheapest shit. If it can do the job, that's fine enough. Because like when your Under Armour shirt gets to be too smelly, guess what? You can get another one for $3.
The stove I've been using since the start of the Colorado Trail section hike. So 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 now, taking it all my trips for all of them. That stove cost about $12 on Amazon. And it has yet to break.
Yeah.
That's a cheap stove.
Stove is a good example,
I
too.
still wear the shorts I wore on the PCT and didn't buy them specifically for it. Like if you have a favorite pair of running shorts, you don't need anything more special than that.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of shorts from Walmart for the AT, and I wore them also on the JMT, and I wore them also on the Colorado Trail. So that's a Walmart pair of shorts.
See, guys? You're getting your money's worth on this one.
Yeah.
Also worth mentioning, as I was saying, the Under Armour thing, that this obviously doesn't speak to the environmental friendliness of this. Like if you're replacing your shirt every 500 miles, it's obviously you're way better off getting like a merino wool thing that you could potentially use for the entire trail. Keep in mind the subject of the show is how to save money. We're going to speak to that, but there are obviously other concerns to be had here. So like if you're trying to do the thing that is the most environmentally conscious, maybe getting something, well, I guess getting something from Goodwill's, you're reusing it. So there's that element, but you also would want to factor in the durability of something, and like polyester is going to end up smelling like shit pretty quickly. So you either have to get comfortable being the stinky person or potentially get something with some merino wool that has some anti-stink properties to it.
Cool.
True. So my next tip is basically it's one thing that's a major tenet of the financial independence community, but basically getting really granular with figuring out how much your life actually costs, and potentially maybe what you already have saved, because it might be more than you think. Have you checked your 401k account since you decided how much you were going to put in it? I mean, obviously you're not going to use your 401k to hike, but maybe if that's something that you worry about when going hiking, that you don't have enough in general to live a normal life or whatever, you might have more than you realize before you even start. But also I think it's important to go through how much your life actually costs, because I find that there's a lot of things you don't expect and then that you can cut out. So for example, if you go through a really detailed spreadsheet or something, it's kind of painful at first, but you might go through and realize, okay, I have these 4 subscriptions that have been recurring charges on my credit card for 7 months that I don't ever use. Or I'm spending, $500 a month on eating out, but I don't really need to be spending that much money. How can I make sure I cook more food at home? Or maybe you realize your housing costs are really high, and if you have the flexibility to move, or maybe get a roommate, I've heard of people moving home even. If you have that privilege to be able to do that, maybe that's a good option for you. But basically, once you figure out how much you're actually spending, it's a lot easier to figure out what you can cut. And there is a point where you cut enough that there isn't anything more. Like there is genuinely, obviously, a bare minimum, but once you figure that out, you can figure out the gap between how much you spend and how much you make, and figure out, okay, if I just set that aside every month, how many months does it take to save for a through hike? And then that way you can kind of get your timeline realistic. And if you want to shorten that timeline, and you can't cut anymore, I think to Zach's point, the biggest thing is, figuring out ways to earn more, which I think we'll go into more later. But basically the biggest thing is figuring out how you can make that gap bigger. And once you know how much you spend, that's really the best way to figure out how to do that.
It's like figuring out your base weight. The more you
exactly
cut, the more you
like
cut, the less comfortable you'll be, but the easier it'll be.
And you might find a happy medium. Maybe you cut down to 7 pounds and you're like, this is freaking miserable and I'm never doing this again. But then when you go up to like 9 or 10, you're like, damn, this is luxurious.
Yeah.
Like, and you're still at 10 pounds and that's way less than 19 and life is still good. And that's 9 pounds of freedom.
I think this is a really important point, and it doesn't come naturally to me because I'm not a numbers person. I hate analyzing and breaking down the data, but like measuring really is the only way that you can improve something. And it is you mentioned that it was an uncomfortable thing, and I don't know if you meant that from like a tedious standpoint or just like really taking a look at maybe potentially the way that you are misspending money.
I think both. I think psychologically it can be really intimidating because it's easier to just kind of say, okay, that's my credit card bill this month. All right, I'll just pay it off. Right. It's fine. Out
of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, really like diving in. And so I recently started counting my macros because before I was thinking I was eating at like a very sustainable rate. And like I found since I've started just measuring what I'm eating, I've cut out snacking entirely because like I have to actually add that into my thing. And like I have to consciously process what I'm putting into my mouth. And just the little thing of measuring what I'm doing has changed my habit tremendously. So I imagine it's a very similar practice for the way that you would budget for anything.
And I think that kind of goes back to Chaunce's point from earlier. If you're the kind of person who will swipe a credit card till you're blue in the face, maybe cash is better for you.
Right.
Or, I mean, I'm in a habit currently until I kind of feel like I can stop I will log all my credit card purchases just to see where my money is actually going. And I try not to get super granular with my budget, but having categories and knowing, okay, I'm way over and eating out this month. I definitely need to just go to the grocery store tonight so I don't keep doing that, is really helpful in just kind of keeping an eye on things.
Yeah.
I will say, to piggyback on your point, since that's what we were doing, another good thing about like putting your life expenses out on paper and seeing like how much it costs to just exist is that people often forget that when you go on trail, you might have expenses still at home. You know, when you're saving for the trail, you might be saving for how much it costs to hike the trail, but then it's like, oh shoot, I still have my rent, or I have to pay for this storage unit, or I still have car insurance payments, or
health insurance.
Like all that stuff. Yeah, there's so many expenses that can add up from things that you just like pay for by existing, that it's nice to have it laid out, like Elise said, so that you can actually see, okay, I won't be, using this expense on groceries because that expense is going towards the trail groceries, or I won't have to pay for my apartment because I'm, subletting it. So that one's crossed off, but then you can see what's left and how much those add up to and what you need to add on to your budget to make sure you make it through.
Totally. Great point. And not to plug Trek stuff, but I'm going to plug Trek stuff. About last year around this time, I want to say, we released an ebook on the same subject, how to afford a thru-hike, and there's an entire chapter in the ebook dedicated to budgeting, and it has like sample budgets. So like if you feel at a loss for what we're talking about here about preparing your budget for a thru-hike, legitimately we have templates in place that'll do all this stuff, or at least get you started with it. And it goes way deeper down the rabbit hole with all of these subjects. I want to do an impromptu triple crown, but we'll do just...
That's kind of what this whole thing is.
Yeah, I guess kind of. But Inception, within this particular category, let's just do one subject. What's something that you see maybe your peers or just other people in general spend money on that you have cut out of your life? Like something that you realize you don't value it, you identified it as wasteful spending and have either eliminated or at least reduced it.
Are we doing a true triple crown where we each get 3 or just one?
We'll just do one.
Okay.
Ordering like Uber Eats, DoorDash, any delivery food service, I got to the point of ashamed where it was just like, you get so far down that COVID rabbit hole where it's like, I don't leave my house anymore. Right. This is me now. I am a creature of the closet. But like sometimes you have to actually go to the grocery store and like still buy your own groceries and not just order Thai food every night because then you get fat. Not that like I know from personal experience or anything, but I have massively cut down the food delivery because of disgust with myself.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's very like that's the ultimate convenience, right? Like
Yeah.
you work till 6 or 7, and like you're starving, and you don't have the
And you're
energy.
like, I deserve this. I worked hard today.
Right,
And it's
exactly.
like, shut up. Go to the grocery store.
Yeah. That's a great one.
To piggyback off of being a creature in the closet, I've significantly reduced like my beauty budget. I think Thru-Hiking helped me a shit ton with that. Just having, not caring if I wear makeup all day, every day or anything like that. But also I don't dye my hair blonde anymore. For all the blondes out there, that's like $300 or $400 every 3 or 4 months.
Oh, no shit. Wow.
It's pricey.
That's crazy.
Can be definitely more than that too. But yeah, that's a big one. And like I used to get my nails done. I don't really do that anymore.
Clothes. I
don't buy clothes
for anything. It's
yeah,
not like,
Clothes was mine.
I have a
leave the
rule.
house.
Yeah. Sorry to steal yours.
No, it's
prematurely,
fine.
Zach,
I think
but
that's
yeah.
maybe an obvious one. But
I
What's
make
your
myself
rule?
basically if I can thrift it, I'm not allowed to buy it new.
Neat.
It's also an environmental thing, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, I want to do that practice just to like, maybe help the light bulb go off for other people being like, you know what, I don't give a fuck about clothes, or like maybe I am door dashing too much, whatever it might be.
Maybe I don't need to be blonde to have more fun.
Oh, wait, Zach, say yours.
Close.
Well, you can't say that after we said that. We took it.
Well, but you took more than one. But like I am legitimate. Like if you go to the first recorded podcast that we've done, like video, I'm probably wearing the same shirt that I'm
Yeah,
wearing
Zach
right
got this shirt off a guy in Mexico.
I have like 7 shirts that I wear. I could care less about clothes. I probably spend at most $100 on clothes per year, and like that's if I need a specific thing, because like we just moved, and my favorite like work shorts. I've had them for 15 years, and like I bent over to pick up a box and just ripped right through the crotch.
You're such a dad.
I'm the most dad of all time.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I'm like, I know it's an obvious one, but I'm pretty hardcore. I just don't care about clothes. I don't care.
Honestly, that shirt looks good for how long you've worn it. It
Yeah.
doesn't look worn out at all.
It looks
Have you
very,
heard
the
this
colors
story?
are fresh.
Do you know the story of the shirt?
No.
Oh, Zach traded a guy for it. He saw a guy wearing it and he liked it, so he went and traded him the shirt he was wearing.
A stranger in a bar in Mexico.
What shirt were you wearing?
That was the sell. I got again. I should acknowledge my privilege here. Is I do get a lot of free clothes based on the work that I do. I have to test a lot of products, but it was a Ibex button-up shirt, so it was like the MSRP was probably pretty high. And I'm like, hey man, this is a nice shirt. Do you want to trade shirts with me? I don't think he spoke English, but eventually, like, he got the.
Eventually, you got the shirt off him.
I think he was more so just like, get away from me. Here's my shirt. But I don't regret it. The shirt's fucking awesome. You can watch the YouTube video if you want to see the shirt, but this is the best shirt of all time. $3. Okay. Number 3, Chaunce.
Okay, this one is, if you don't want to like cut things out, like if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, that's a great idea in theory, but like I like my luxuries and I'm not going to be able to budget because like I want to spend time with my friends before I go or any of this, like take on a side job. It used to be kind of hard to be like, okay, if I go and I take on a side job at PetSmart, then I have to factor it into my hours and they're going to assign me hours and this and that. Like that used to be kind of tough. Now there's so many different ways that you can take on side jobs on your own schedule at whatever time is convenient for you. You can drive for Uber, you can drive for Lyft, you can walk dogs for Rover, you can walk dogs for Wag, you can dog sit or cat sit in the comforts of your own home. You can deliver groceries for Instacart. You can do all these different things on your own schedule in your free time, not like reporting to anyone directly above you. And you can take that and say, okay, this is bonus work I'm doing specifically for the trail, and everything I make off these jobs are going into that account, saving for the trail. And then you don't have to adjust your normal life because this is all stuff you're adding on. So it's like if you don't want to diet, then exercise, This is the exercise.
You can do both.
Well, you could. You could cut down your expenses and take on a side job.
I think there's also, too, to be acknowledged about that, some people really can't cut anymore, too. That
right.
Like, they've already cut to the bone, as we kind of said earlier, or maybe they have a
or
family
they have a
need
job
to
that doesn't pay a
provide
lot.
for. Yeah, or they have an earning, like, I guess in the FI community, they kind of talk about it. If you've already cut, like, as much as you can, it's time to look at how do you increase what you earn. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But, yeah, like, a side job is definitely one of those things. But also if if you have kids that you need to take care of and you're hearing this and you're like, there's no freaking way I can.
Oh, you could put them to work.
Multiple
people working. That's multiple stream. Yeah, I like where you're going with that. That's smart, Elise.
What I was gonna say was, don't be afraid to negotiate your salary. Even if you've recently been employed or whatever, you know, there's always, if you're bringing value, don't be afraid to ask for more money.
Totally. That's a great point. Also, I should address the fact that, like, we're not trying to be insensitive to people who, you know, maybe just aren't in a circumstance in life where they can swing a through hike. But I think generally speaking, more people, and I'm certainly in this category, could do better at making more and saving more. Like,
the average in America, I think is your savings rate, which is basically the difference between what you make and what you spend, is 7%. And for context, people who are trying to reach financial independence will have saving rates of like 50% and up, which obviously ridiculous. They're in an extreme state, but like if you could just increase that to like 15%, you're already doing a lot better.
For sure.
I also think like the subject matter that we're thinking of when we're making these questions aren't towards someone that like has no intentions of doing a through hike or, you know, can't afford it at all. Like the advice we're giving is towards someone that's like, I want to do the PCT next year. And now it's like, okay, how do I save better for it? Sure. You know, it's someone that already kind of has the means to do it on their own, but it's like, how do I get that extra bit? How do I make sure that I'm not screwing this up?
Sure. Yeah. But if there's the single mom out there who's working 3 jobs and is just like,
her dream is to hike the PCT. You don't want her to think,
and she's sleeping 3 hours as is.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
we're not trying to tell you to work harder or work more side jobs. Like, you're already doing good, but probably most people listening are more like slackers like me.
Yeah. I'm thinking of people that just like get DoorDash and then hate themselves. Like
There's
me.
also a lot of people, I feel like, in the through hiking community, just to like, for people to know that it's possible, that work seasonally. So they almost every year will work over the winter, like a couple jobs. I think Rabbit talked about that a little bit.
At the ski resort.
Yeah, and it's not like, not to knock lifties or anything, but I don't think you make a ton of money. If you're an hourly employee. It's, you know, they're not making, you know, 6 figures or anything, and they're able to save for a through hike. So if they can do it, you can too.
Ballflap worked at a lifty between the PCT and now. So he worked as a lifty in between his AT hike and his CDT hike, and he worked as a lifty between his PCT hike and his AT hike. And both times, like, he was in a dorm room where he lived at the ski resort that was like barely enough room for the bunk beds that were in it. He was roommating with a girl because it was just like the only option he had. He would never come to Denver for the meetups because he couldn't spend money on gas. He would never go out. He didn't really drink at all there because he was saving that money. Like, he was getting a lifty salary, but he had huge lifestyle changes where it was like, every penny that I'm getting that isn't going to rent or food is going to saving.
Yeah.
It's going to change how much discipline you have to have, depending on your situation, for sure.
And to my earlier point, to have like that very specific goal of the joy of a through hike, I think will allow you to have better discipline. Whereas like just like saving 20% for some nebulous concept might be very difficult for some people. You know, I think if you're trying to retire by 40, that's one of those, it's a similar motivating factor as it is to like through hike, and those could be the same thing. Okay, to my last point, this is a big one, and I think maybe redundant to especially what Chaunce pointed out, but I asked the question, how much do you think your through hike is going to cost? Now add 20%. Because it's always more than you anticipate for a variety of reasons. And this is especially true for first-time through hikers. I'd say by the time your second through hike comes around, like, you've got your gear dialed in, you know your mentality on the trail. A lot of the unknowns are going to go out the window. Not all of them, but most of them are going to go out the window. On your first long-distance backpacking trip, there's just things that are going to come up that you can't be prepared for, whether it be injury, your gear malfunctions, a number of things could happen. So you're going to end up spending more money. I think the biggest thing that happens is like you're just so far out of your comfort zone that when you do hit town, it's just becomes so easy to justify going into town and getting a beer, 2 beers, a burger, a hotel room, whatever it might be. Like, you're going to leave town spending $150 on things that were non-essential. And everybody does it. Like, everybody that has a big pile of money that they've saved for many months, they're like, oh, sweet, now I get to dip into that. And before you know it, like, you've gone through it at an astronomical rate, as Chaunce has pointed out. So instead of like trying to be frugal out the gate, I really encourage people to save more money than they think they have to, because I also think that people are not necessarily entirely forthright about how much money they save, or they don't necessarily track how much money they spent all that well. I think a lot of times these are guesstimates. So like when people say they spent $5,000 on a thru hike, I think that's probably correct for the lower end of the range, but bullshit. Like I think most people are like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000.
I think that's low as well.
Yeah.
And
When I did the budget for hiking from home, like I did a sample budget of how to save, and it was like I did all the math for like what I had done, like including what I would spend on laundry, how often I would shower, what average prices were, and it came out to $2 a mile being like the extremely like frugal side of things.
I remember that being kind of the general guidance in 2010, which makes me wonder like how long have they been using the $2 per mile, because inflation has changed.
Yeah, that is if you are living tight.
Right. Maybe it was $2 per mile in like 1990, but like more dollars per mile. I would say for the average listener, you can get by on less. For the average listener, I'm just going to pull a number out of my butt. Actually, I think the most recent Thru-Hikers survey through the Trek 2019, it was like the median was like 6,000 or 6,500. I'll include it in the show notes. Elise will include it in the show notes, please. But that includes, so we actually asked 300 people. That's probably a better approximate than, just asking a few people like what they spent on their thru-hike, because the odds are people weren't tracking it that closely. But I would say use that number as like your absolute floor. You're going to be so much better off by saving more money. You're going to give yourself so much more freedom on the trail. And I think very importantly, you're going to have a little bit of leeway if you do this correctly after you finish the trail, because one thing that people don't factor in is after you finish a 5-6 month thru hike,
this is what I was about to say.
The last thing you want to do is jump back into a 9 to 5, especially like if you hated your career.
Well, you might not also get hired right away.
Yeah, that finding a job, who knows what the job market is at the time. You probably have had some sort of shift.
If you rent an apartment, they're going to have a deposit you need to put down.
Right.
Yeah, there's expensive getting back into life costs.
Yeah, you gotta factor for like, imagine to be off your feet in theory, like off your feet for like a month at minimum.
Yeah.
Did you sell your car? Do you need to now buy another car?
Do you need time to take things out of storage and move them into the apartment that you had to pay the first month rent on and the 1 month's deposit? Like, do you need to, get back, like you said, there's a bunch of different things.
Yeah. And for context, I'm not afraid. I spent probably $8,000 on the PCT. I think it definitely got more pricey at the end because of, like I was talking about, the snowstorms in Washington. But then I needed another $2,000 that I had to take out of, like, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but my retirement fund. And because of that time period, I was unemployed for another 2 or 3 months. And I had to move from Atlanta to Denver. And then, the first month deposit, the U-Haul, everything.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think I've said this on the show before, and I don't say this jokingly, is I wrote Appalachian Trials specifically so I had an excuse to not get a job. I don't mean that as a joke. I legitimately wanted a project where like I could appease society around me. Where people were like, so what are you up to? I'm like, oh, I'm writing a book. It was disguised so I didn't have to go back into the working world, because that terrified me. Like the idea of having a project to fill in the gap of not having a job just seemed like a good solution. I got lucky that a couple people read it, but I think that's a pretty typical thing, especially like if you're not in love with your career and you're jumping back into it. Even if you are fortunate enough to have like a job opportunity immediately off the trail, a lot of people are going to want to pump the brakes on getting back into the grind. So build a little leeway into that if you can.
And your first paycheck might not come for 2 weeks.
Great point.
Yep.
And it also gives you flexibility, even if you do like your career, choosing specifically which job you do next. Because if you're kind of pressed for time and money, you might take the first thing that comes when really, maybe in the long run, you would get a way better offer from a different company, or, you'd prefer that company even.
Or you have a revelation on trail of what you'd rather do, and then you have to figure that out. But like you said with the 2 weeks, it's like, let's say you got off trail and the next day you started applying for jobs. Let's say by that Friday, if that was a Monday, you had like, let's say one interview that was going to hire you lined up. Then the next week you go and you do that interview. Maybe you get called back for a second. Maybe you just get the job. Then they say, okay, start Monday. Then you wait 2 weeks for your paycheck. That's a month right there. That's you starting everything the second you get home. And that's still a month before the paycheck comes. So you need to have factored, if you're not going to be applying the second you get home and you're not going to get an interview that first Friday, you need to account for that.
Totally.
Yeah, and not to sound doomsayers, it's possible. Obviously, lots of people have done it, and you can do it too. So just account for it. Just
totally
be ready.
feasible if you do all these things that we're not giving professional financial advice on.
Yeah. No, these are opposite day advice.
Yes. In all that to say, my final point is, and I think this applies both on and off trail, as you guys were talking about stuff. I had originally written this for off trail, but I think it works for both. But surrounding yourself with people who have similar goals, or at least fully support yours and are really rooting for you, and are willing to, understand your changes in behavior because they care about you. And I think the way this applies in, before trail when you're saving is, even if your friends still want to go eat out all the time, are they willing to do something, free to hang out with you? Like maybe you guys go to the park or something and bring your own lunch or something, and they're okay with that because they know what you're saving for and they're excited for you rather than, being mad at you because you never show up to anything or whatever. Or even having friends who are also saving through hike. If you are in, a bigger city, maybe it's worth reaching out to people online and seeing, if there are other people who have the same goal.
If you're in Denver, go to the hiker meetups that we
now
do
sure.
again.
I made a lot of friends at the one before COVID, and then I made friends on Monday as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of
I think
people on
we
Monday.
hired you at a
You did,
meetup.
yeah.
So
it was the first.
Yeah.
the last
come to a
one.
meetup, get an internship,
I
and
remember we
then
were
join the
strategizing
podcast.
beforehand.
Knock off like 3 birds with one stone. The side
Just like
hustle
watching
and-
you from afar, you didn't know. We were just like,
Is she cool?
Yeah.
Can she hang?
Yeah.
The silent job interview. I think that is an excellent point. That's a great just life advice point. I'm sure everyone's heard the quote, but like you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So like if the 5 people that you're closest to are going out and spending $300 at the bar and restaurants every week, like guess what? That tide is pulling you in that direction. So identify what matters to you and then seek out the community that is moving in that direction.
Yeah, and I think on trail too, it applies. There are people who are bougier about going into towns, and there are people who will sleep in the public park that's in town. Yeah. And I think it's a matter of figuring out what you want to do and how much you've saved and what makes sense for you, and then maybe hanging out with those people. Because I definitely, in our trail family, there was a little bit of a variance on how much people were willing to spend. And that makes a difference too if you're all trying to get a hotel room together. If you're like, okay, we're all fine with $40, but the 4th person is like, I can't spend more than $20, then, that's hard for them and it's hard for the rest of the trail family. So
yeah. Yeah. I think it's a really good point. So we touched on some of these other bonus items. I think this is a meaty enough subject that we should just leave it be, and then we can revisit them in a future how to save for a through hike.
yeah, I think we covered all the biggies.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We'll put the bow on it then. Although I do think the credit card one is a good point, but
I can do it really fast.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so to the point earlier, if you are not good with credit cards, if you know that about yourself and that's not a route you should go down, then don't do it. But if you're pretty good at managing your money and you can pay off your card in full every single month, taking advantage of credit card bonus signups can save you a ton of money. I haven't paid for a flight in 3 years.
Damn.
Because
So are you just opening new credit cards and then canceling them?
So
or
I only
downgrading
have-
to the free?
I only have 2, but the sign up bonuses are so big that
with 60,000.
yeah, and that's basically $600 in flight. So obviously it depends where you're flying.
Yeah.
Finding deals, but then also when you redeem that through the portal, it can get really complicated, but that can be worth even more money than $600. And then and if you a lot of them have annual fees. That's another big thing to think about. And if you're not going to use it for more than just the bonus, if you don't think you'll spend enough to earn enough points to make it worth it, you can downgrade it. I wouldn't recommend closing it because then that affects your total credit. But you also can't close it. It's not as big of a deal as people think, but you can downgrade it so you're not paying that annual fee after you've gotten the sign up bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my credit card spiel.
That's a really good point. And I think the preface that you let in with is a very important lead in for that. Cause if you have trouble managing the infinity money that a credit card feels like, skip it. But if you are, able to budget with a credit card, you can get a lot of stuff for free.
And just pay off your card in full. Just never carry a balance because that interest is no joke.
Yeah. Cool. Let's put a bow on it there. I love that. Should we take a break or you guys want to power through?
Let's power through.
Cool.
I'm down.
Let me get a little bit more wine.
I might. No.
You want to take a potty break?
This is how it spirals. We're going.
Let's go.
I'm gonna get a beer.
I'll do a trek.
Oh,
Wait, I don't
we
actually.
can't do it, can we? We can't just spot.
So I didn't actually prepare a trek propaganda.
Yeah, okay, let's take our break.
We're doing it?
It's up to you guys. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready. I don't know what I'm ready for, but I'm
Since
ready.
we're doing a trek propaganda, Elise, you can go. You've got potty time if you want it.
Does anyone else want to see her?
Oh, you wanted a beer? Oh, no, I'm good. Just drinking out of a bottle. That's right.
I was like, once we veer, it's going to be another 15 minutes.
Yeah. So the reason I'm insistent on doing a Trek propaganda, even though I'm not prepared, is because the Trek's editor is out through hiking the Colorado Trail right now, but we have a fill-in lead content, and it's none other than Chaunce's lead dog walker. She's a former blogger for the site, a former writer for the site. She's done some photography for us. She's legitimately a powerhouse Swiss Army knife, and there's none other than Colleen Goldhorn.
Yeah, Harper's former dog walker. She got a better marketing job that I couldn't blame her to go to.
Sure.
But Harper's second favorite person in the world. I brought her to the meetup.
Hilarious.
Harper to the meetup.
This was so fun.
And Colleen was going. Like, I texted Colleen. I was like, I'm going to bring Harper. Get ready. They haven't seen each other for like 6 months, maybe less. Harper was literally jumping to like the height of Colleen's head, but like not like 2 front paws up, 2 back paws like bouncing on the ground. Like all 4 feet were level, and she was just like
levitating.
Like it was wild. She couldn't contain herself. It was so cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, Colleen's fantastic.
Honestly, I've seen excited dogs before, but this was like those videos where soldiers are reunited with their dogs. It was like the dog hadn't seen her for years, and it was her best friend. I think Harper likes Colleen more than you.
Yeah, it's a close one.
So shout out to Colleen. She's been our lead content person for the last week and a half at this point. She's done a lot of really good pieces. Let's see. I'm going to go with my favorite from the batch. Actually, this will be a crossover. This is one that Chaunce tipped me to. She sent a news story.
Oh, yeah, and Zach didn't even respond. I just saw this posted the next day.
I'm normally bad at communication, especially text messaging, but last week was just like a blank box.
I was like, well, I know he got it.
Yeah. Jenna picked up my phone. She's like, you have 240 unread text messages. I'm like, I just don't even try anymore.
It's the group chats.
What are we at right now? 114. I made some progress.
You're so popular. Tell me more
phone.
about how many friends you have.
That wasn't even like a drunk accident. That was, I don't even know what happened. Anyways, the story in this one, title, obviously gives it away as it always does. Alaskan man found after days-long battle with grizzly bear.
Can't catch a break up there.
Yeah, this one this is like The Revenant, but scarier. So let me scroll to the meat of this. The man reported that he was dragged down to a nearby river in the initial fight and that he hadn't slept in days while fending off the bear. He suffered injuries to his leg, torso, which made it difficult to escape for help. Although the man's identity is being kept private, it was reported that he is in his late 50s, early 60s. Where's the part where the bear came back?
The bear tore off the door of the little shack he was staying in that was like far away from any other places. And so the door was torn off, so he had nothing to hide behind. The bear was coming back every single night. He had a shotgun, and when they found him, he had like help or something written
Help and SOS.
Yeah, help and SOS written on the roof of the little shack. And he only had 2 bullets left in the gun. And so when they stopped and finally got him, he was like, dude, I didn't think I was going to make it through tonight because of, only having 2 bullets left.
Yeah. So
And I think the craziest part about that, sorry to Zach to interrupt, but the only reason that they saw the SOS on the roof was because they went out of course. Like the helicopter that saw him was off course for something else, which is probably in the article. But
yeah.
I was just like, what are the chances?
Yeah, that's a lucky. Well, is it a lucky guy or is it a really unlucky guy?
Both, I guess. Yeah. But so the Chaunce already touched on this, but it was discovered that the man had been rescued from a multi-day grizzly bear attack at his remote mining claim, stating that after the bear initially attacked, it continued to come back to the shack each night in an attempt to, quote, finish him off. Although he did have a pistol, he was down to his last 2 rounds of ammunition, likely wouldn't have lasted too much longer if the bear continued to... Can you imagine, like, trying to go to sleep knowing that a bear's been back
You're not trying to go to sleep.
Not to go
You're
super
trying to not
dark,
go to sleep.
But, like, if you have 2 bullets left...
You're saving one.
Yeah,
You're saving one.
Would way rather turn off the lights and a quick go than like a grizzly bear gouging your eyes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So Thanks, Colleen, for covering that news story. She has a lot of fucking awesome posts. She's a great writer and an avid outdoors woman.
And a friend of dogs.
A friend of dogs, photographer. So just a couple of other posts. I won't go into them, but if you're interested in the subjects, weighing the potential health risks of through hiking. This is an interesting one. This one actually came out today. Common leave no trace mistakes made by through hikers and how to avoid them. How to stay safe while hiking during wildfire season. She's just a powerhouse. She's the best. So
She's amazing.
Yeah,
From that common through hiker mistakes, finally learned, I feel like, what I was supposed to do with my toothpaste. I've never really known for sure. Either swallow it or spit it into your trash bag.
Yeah, I'm not going to swallow it.
I feel like but trash bag I never thought of.
Yeah.
Swallowing it gives you a tummy ache.
Talking about toothpaste, right?
Have you ever... Stop it. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Okay. In the spirit of affording through hikes.
Shut up.
In the spirit of affording through hikes, today's Triple Crown is going to be in that vein. This is Triple Crown of things to spend $25 on.
I want to go first. 100 gumballs.
Chaunce was so keyed into the gumballs. She was just measuring money with gumballs.
Well, at first we were going to do things to spend $5 on, but Zach couldn't think of anything. So I was like, what about $5? 20 gumballs?
Yeah.
And then we upped it to 25. So I was like, sweet, I'm going to get 100 gumballs.
Did you have plans for $5 things beyond gumballs?
Imagine you stood in front of one of those gumball machines and just did it until you got 100. Like, and then you just threw them all in your mouth, threw them at your friends' mouths.
We're talking about
throwing
gumballs,
your balls
right?
everywhere. That'd be pretty fun. That'd be a good use of $25. A fun afternoon.
Listen, I don't disagree, but that wasn't an answer to my question. Did you have anything else other than gumballs for $5?
Yeah. Did you not see our thread?
Oh, that's right.
A shower at a hostel.
Yeah. Okay, so...
cut me off. We have great options.
So you kept yours very through hiking specific. Mine is not.
Gumballs?
I guess that's true. Well, aside from your gumball...
Aside from the only one
obsession,
I've given?
Yeah, well, but the other ones that I discerned from the thread were very through hiking centric. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. This is through hiking centric.
Oh.
But I'm going to go with it because I fear that somebody else is going to take it. But I believe a pair of darn tough socks are in the low 20s. If I'm not mistaken, maybe they've upped their rates because inflation's crazy, yow. But if it's still under 25, then I take it. But Darn Tough is, I mean, there's a lot of great merino sock brands. Darn Tough has a phenomenal lifetime warranty on theirs, which I've definitely taken advantage of a few times. I don't feel bad about it. They're a huge company. They're just great socks. I don't know what else to say. You can't get a better pair of socks with a lifetime warranty for 20-some bucks.
Okay.
That's it.
No qualms.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That would be another thing to spend on, I would say, for a through hike, is like a quality pair of merino wool socks. That's probably a non-negotiable.
Yeah, if you're only going to carry 2 pairs, like some people, me, it's nice to have 2 good pairs.
Or even 3 pairs. Like, yeah, just
keep the third for sleepy time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That also helps that they're not, when you go spendy on socks, it's like a $20 pair of socks versus a spendy on it can be $600.
Yeah.
So
I guess that would be a crack in my earlier argument because I have purchased darn tough socks in the last few months. So I do buy clothes, but it's usually backpacking specific.
Yeah, and that's why I said anything I can't thrift.
Yeah.
Which,
you don't
I mean,
thrift socks.
you can thrift. Yeah.
That'd be gross.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty gross.
Or at least like backpacking.
You gotta draw
socks
like you
are
said, you have to
hard
draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can get socks from Goodwill. Usually it's already packaged. It's not like they're used, but I actually did that the last time I bought just ankle socks. So a peek into my spending habits. But honestly, I had a harder time thinking of $25 than $5 things. But I'm going to go really nerdy with my first one and say I'd invest it if somebody just gave me $25.
That's so on brand.
Elise, we actually don't need you for this segment.
Here's a question. What would you invest it in?
Diversified portfolio of index funds.
Ooh.
Sheesh.
So will you explain ETF to the people?
Yes. So honestly, I'm really bad at doing this from recall, but basically an ETF usually a collection of index funds, and correct me if I say, I'm sure we'll get an email. Anyway, a collection of index funds that can be traded at the same kind of, like, it's traded like stocks, but you own a lot more than just one individual stock. That's the gist of it. And an index fund is basically you're buying an index or a certain percentage of a bunch of different companies based on what that index is. So, like, a very common one is like the S&P 500. So you're buying a portion of each company in the S&P 500.
Yeah. So the corollary is like a mutual fund, which was very popular for decades, which is where you have like an active manager who knows everything and is buying all the hot stocks, except for typically they don't outperform the general market. And they also take a huge fee, so you're actually underperforming the market. The idea with index funds is like, to what Elise's point was, like you're buying an equal share of the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, or you can buy different sectors if you want to get into like healthcare or specifically technology or international. The best part is there's very low fees associated with these. So like you get diversified within these sectors, but you're not paying the outrageous fee that comes along with a mutual fund.
Yeah.
I think that's generally the idea.
It's pretty accurate.
But I love that your answer was invested. I think it's a good one.
I don't spend money on like anything anymore because I'm so focused on saving.
Fire.
Yeah, fire.
Okay. Elise,
Snake
you get
draft.
two.
I know. Now I'm nervous. Honestly, probably I just saw the McDonald's app on my phone. When I do buy comfort food, it's McDonald's. I would probably spend
What's your go-to McDonald's order?
the double cheese, or not double cheeseburger, but the 2 cheeseburger meal.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
one.
it's super good. That's all I get, and a Diet Coke.
I
Large
like, well,
Diet
actually, I
Coke.
like the cheeseburger Happy Meal because it's like a little bit of everything.
When's the last time you guys had a Big Mac?
I've
Wait.
never had one.
The Big Mac is McDonald's, right? No,
No, that's too big of a. I don't like
So
big
much patty.
sandwiches because they have to open your mouth really wide. I like when they're nice and small and approachable.
Chaunce,
You know.
Too many.
what I'm
I
saying?
can't. Too
Burying
many
the-
for one
What do you
episode.
mean?
yourself.
I don't get what you mean.
You guys have never had a Big Mac?
I mean, I've tasted like a Big Mac, like the sauce,
I've never had
you know,
one.
but
I grew up in a
Chaunce is just challenging me right now.
and I'm just
have you ever tasted
Totally.
the sauce, Zach?
It was just the sauce, just one time in
Just
college.
take a little lick.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway.
I don't feel like
You know
what I was gonna add is no longer important.
I'm a slut for McFlurries. I don't know why. Jenna makes fun of me because she's like, it's not even good ice cream. I just really like maybe it's the spoon. The spoon's so weird. That like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but give me a McFlurry. I'm an ice cream boy. Anyways, that's a great answer. I'm going to do one that's very similar, but I hate how similar it is. Is this, again, I guess, is thru-hiking centric, so I'm defeating what I originally said. But if you've got $25 to spend on a meal, spend it on an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Ooh.
And wait until you've achieved the hiker hunger. Probably is not going to come after hiking like the John Muir Trail or the Colorado Trail. Like, you got to be months deep to understand what it's like to have a insatiable hunger. But going into an all-you-can-eat buffet and just absolutely doing work is like, it's like being an athlete. You feel like Joey Chestnut, just doing things that are beyond the normal physical capability. I'm actually surprised that any of these trail towns even allow all-you-can-eat buffets because they must be losing money on those people.
That's why they do like you have like an additional charge if you don't finish your plate, so you don't take on too much.
Yeah.
Which gets dangerous because
But I
you're
met
force-feeding
most
yourself.
through hikers with their hiker hunger, like they can finish even the 9th plate. Some of the most, this is funny. So, Jabba's good friends with like the Jurek family now. The origin of them getting connected was me talking to Jenny Jurek, and she's like, it's so funny how much food Jabba can eat. Like, she was following his Instagram stories, and like back in 2015, he would have some eating prowesses. So we did like 330 miles of the Colorado Trail together, and he had just finished doing like 90% of the PCT. So he had some miles underneath him. We went to a restaurant in, is it Lake Town on the Colorado Trail?
Lake City.
Lake City. So it's a resort town. This was the last weekend that they were in operation, so you could get meals at like half price or less. I think Jabba got 4 or 5 breakfast entrees and finished them at the same pace that I ate my one entree. Like he had to move to a bigger table to fit all of his plates.
What a guy.
Yeah. So
This made me think of, because we've been brainstorming today, another plug, we've been brainstorming today, like, segments we can do at our live podcast that are audience interactive.
podcast at thetruck.co if you've got any Wisconsin-specific ideas.
Yeah. We could do, like, a hot dog eating contest. We could give a prize to whoever can eat the most hot dogs in, like, however
Amongst
many
the
minutes.
listeners, not us, right?
No, not us.
Okay.
I would lose.
Yeah.
But I know you love to eat a good hot dog. But yeah, we can call up like
a good
some
footlong?
if that's how you prefer them.
I mean, size doesn't matter, but size matters.
Yeah, cool. So we can call up like 1 or 2 people from the audience, 3 people, 4 people, and then put a plate of hot dogs in front of them. And
well, we'll be in Wisconsin, so it should be bratwurst.
Or cheese curds.
Cheese curds.
The brats would probably be funnier.
Girthier for sure.
Yeah, let's do brats.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll brainstorm this
Yeah, we're
more.
still workshopping these. So if you have if you're going to be at one of these events, you get extra preference because we'll actually probably put you through the ringer on one of these. But if you have a Wisconsin themed segment idea, we want it.
The segments are mainly going to be like all encompassed in the category of Chaunce does summer camp. So
yeah,
it's going to be stuff where it's very fun. You're having a lot of laughs, perhaps physically exerting, perhaps jokes at your expense, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
My next one is going to be a pair of Gooder sunglasses. If I had $25 and you were like, buy that on something, spend that on something. They had a lot of pairs that I was on the fence about when I chose the ones I wanted. So I want to go back and take care of that unfinished business.
For sure.
And I also tried on the ones Elise got, and I was trying to find ways to not give them to her and to pretend that she got the different pair instead. And then I realized hers were all black and there was no way to make that happen. But those ones were cool too. I would get those.
So they sent me 2 pairs originally. Very quickly that turned into 1 pair because Jenna stole the other pair from me. She loves them. And now she's trying to take the other pair from me. Like,
it's wives for you.
Fuck. And she has never done that with another pair of my sunglasses.
If you stop letting her leave the house, she won't have anywhere to wear them.
I mean, I unchain her on Thursdays and Mondays, so
maybe less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Less in the winter.
Less is more.
Your turn again? Yeah.
Oh, me again. I would, let's see, $25. You could stay in a hostel at a trail town. If I was planning a hike, if we're doing the theme of the show and saying I'm planning a hike, if I had to send a resupply box anywhere, I'd put the $25 in an envelope and just stick it in the resupply box. Because that
really
turns into free money.
Yeah.
You open it, you forget it's there, and you're like, oh my God, totally. I found $5 in my pants.
Yeah. No, I like to pay for things as soon as possible. That way I forget that I've spent it. And then when the thing happens, it's like, oh shit.
It's Christmas.
It's a free flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, my last one. Trek plug. But how to afford a through hike? $7 if you send me a message on Instagram at ZRDavis with the code word buttchugger McGillicuddy. Good luck spelling that. I'm really gonna make you earn it. Buttchugger McGillicuddy. I'll give you a $2 discount on this for $5. First of all, the book is written by Kelly, who's fucking amazing. But
I thought it was $25. Now you're going back to $5?
Well, I mean, it's less than 25. It doesn't have to be exactly.
You told us we couldn't do $5 because you couldn't think of anything. Now you're giving a code so that they can spend $5?
So if someone doesn't want to go through the degrading act of writing Buttchugger McGillicuddy to me, then it's not less than $5.
Elise, how quick did he shut down $5 earlier today?
Quickly.
This is the only one on my list.
There's nothing that's only $5.
There's only one thing on my list. Anyway, so the book is very good. The book is worth its weight in gold, and it weighs nothing, so you can do the math. But it also includes exclusive. It also includes.
So the book is worthless.
Yeah, it includes discounts to
Or it's invaluable.
6 Moon Designs, Gossamer Gear, Catabatic, Jacks Are Better, Purple Rain Skirts, and -33. And some other companies. This is a rotating list. We send out an email to some of our favorite brands every year to get involved with this. So even if you just get the book and just find the code that gives you the access to this exclusive page, you'll save hundreds of dollars. It's a fucking no-brainer. But yeah, the book is also very good. That's the third one, right? Elise is up.
Yes.
Does this smell like something's burning?
I don't
The
know.
lights could be
maybe
too close.
the lights
are the
are,
lights too
Is it
close to
cooking my
anything?
fragile ginger
or they're
skin?
just hot. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
$25. Is there a smoke detector in here?
Ooh, how much is a smoke detector? You can get us
Um,
one of those.
Anyone else?
Maybe it's just my.
I can make
don't know.
myself smell it if I try, but I think that's
Yeah.
more of like a mind game.
I'm torn between. I feel like I wasted one now because I thought of ones as you guys were going. So I'm kind of torn between a fanny pack and I'm just gonna say another
Are
one.
the fanny packs less than $25?
I think you could find one.
Yeah.
But
It'd have to
that's
be like a thrift
that's
store
where I
fanny
was kind
pack,
of
right?
like I'm not sure because I want a good one.
Yeah.
But I would invest in pre-buying myself bus tickets because I walk to work and it's like a 1.8 mile walk. But lately that's been pretty miserable because if you live in Colorado or anywhere that's going through the current heat wave, it's hot even at like 8 a.m. And so sometimes I treat myself to taking the bus, but that's $3. So if I pre-buy the bus tickets, I feel like I'm like, oh, I already
It's free bus
Yeah,
ride.
date bus rides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass
And some
Elise
change.
hooked
And
it
4
up.
gumballs.
Exactly.
Honorable mention, I'd get more of those horses.
How much were
You
those?
could probably,
Less than
probably like
25.
$6-7,
Yeah.
$8 maybe. So I could get
You could
at
get
least a
a
few more
family.
horses.
Yeah. Sunglasses, lay, and unicorn horn sold separately.
I should just slowly start bringing more blow up horses in here. And then on
Just
these
fill the
videos, you're
space.
just going to slowly start seeing more.
Yikes. Okay. Next segment, gross or not gross. We'll quickly do this one.
Oh, I think I left a note for myself. I've been writing down in my notepad on my phone gross things when I can think of them.
Yeah, I should be taking better notes. With a baby, this should be super easy. But gross or not gross? Going barefoot on an airplane. Not necessarily walking down the aisle or into the bathroom, just like being the person that is shoes off, socks off.
Yeah, I like doing that.
I think it depends on my mental state. If I'm post Thru-Hike, probably not gross.
I say not gross. If you're on an airplane and your feet don't smell, do you?
Yeah. I do the middle ground, which is probably the same thing. I go down to socks. Just like sitting in a seat, I have a really hard time keeping my shoes on. I'm barefoot right now. If I'm sitting down, I just want to get comfortable. I'm going to be sitting in the same place for hours. Like, take off shoes.
Yeah.
I do think it'd be weird though to see someone walking down the aisle on an airplane barefoot.
Especially if they're going to the
If
bathroom.
I didn't have, if you didn't have socks on, I think that's a little different. But I've definitely gone in just socks.
Yeah.
And been like, fuck it, I'm not going to see any of you guys again.
Yeah. Okay, verdict is not gross. Sweet.
Okay. Have I done the peeling all the fingers off your skin thing yet?
I think you did do that.
No, not all the fingers off your skin. Peeling all the skin off your fingers?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Nah, I think you did do that.
I did do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Elise has the show notes.
Still doing it.
I don't know if I remember.
You did. I remember.
Okay.
I remember that.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I'll
Leah's
keep
keeping
thinking
us in
Elise's
line.
turn.
Oh gosh.
This doesn't have to be one where everybody does one.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything on deck.
Oh, okay. I can say one.
Okay.
This is today. I'll just retell the story I told when I got here. I woke up this morning to chaos. Harper loves chasing flies. She has gotten really good at it after a week on trail, and she's often encouraged to do it, especially because it's hilarious and intense. It's really convenient. But I woke up to basically her just really going to no expense to get this fly in my room. And then when she was done, she came over to me in my bed, and then she threw up all over my bed, which was the yellow bile-y, there's nothing clumpy. It's just yellow goo. So I wiped it off my bed, and I sprayed it with some, the spray you spray on dog pee. And then after an hour,
Spray on dog pee?
yeah, that you spray the spray on dog pee when it's on the carpet, and then it makes it
Oh, I
not
thought it was a
stain or
spray where
smell.
you're adding dog pee to
No.
a dog pee cleaner.
Yeah,
Okay.
the dog pees in the carpet, and you spray the stuff on it so that it doesn't stain your carpet or smell.
Yeah.
So I sprayed that on the throw up after.
Patent pending portable dog pee.
Yeah, for when you need it. So I took a tissue and I wiped up the yellow goo, and then there was just a yellow wet spot. So then I sprayed it with the spray, and then I wiped it again, and then it dried so that you can't see anything. And this is not a gross or not gross that has happened yet, but I'm totally going home and just sleeping on it. I'm not going to wash it tonight. I'm not doing laundry tonight.
Yeah.
So my dog threw up on my bed this morning. I wiped it off, sprayed it, and I'm going to sleep on the same sheets tonight.
So if that was somebody else's dog, it'd be gross. But when it's your own thing, it's a totally different game.
That's kind of what I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when we dog watch for other people, like if their dog licks me in the face, I'm like, I gotta go wash my face. But like Sierra will fart in my mouth. And I'm like, that's so cute. That's precious.
Before I ever, because this is my first dog, I used to like, I still don't let her lick me, but I used to think like everything about like the mouth area is gross, like touching its nose or like anything that's wet. Like, don't get any wet dog part near me. And now I'm, like, squeezing Harper's little nose, like, honking it, like, sticking my fingers in it. Like, I'll put my fingers in her mouth and just, like, swirl it around her gums just because I'm like, I'm desensitizing you. But really, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. Well, you probably also, like, puppies are so dumb that they eat everything. So you have to stick your hands down their throat many times to be like, give me that. Don't eat that shard of glass. Like, you just get so desensitized to the things that they eat and shoving your hands down their throat that all the stuff just is in play.
I saw a dried little like dingleberry on the back of her butt fluff because she's got so much butt fluff, and I just picked it off one day. I was just like, give me that, and I just picked it off and tossed it.
Sierra loves to eat grass, as I think a lot of dogs do, and she freaks out if she's got like any sort of dingle situation happening out of her anus. And many times I've had to pull like one strand of grass out of her butthole. I'm not doing this barehanded. I grabbed the poop bag to do it, but like. Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm just saying, like, I've pulled objects out of my dog's butt.
So during Christmas time, we have to keep the doors.
Verdict.
We have to keep the doors of the room that we keep the Christmas tree in at home closed because we have a cat. And you'd think that's because the cat climbs the tree. But we put tinsel on the tree. You know tinsel, right? Like the sparkly silver strands. The cat eats it. Yeah. So then she throws up around the house, but it's just like strings of puke that are shining and like to the point that we have to keep the doors shut.
Jenna had 2 cats and we had to stop putting tinsel on the tree for that exact reason. Yeah.
When it's stringy and it's just like throughout the like carpets and house.
Cats are,
but like also glistening. The spirit of Christmas.
Spirit of Christmas lives on. Not gross.
No. Okay, cool.
Okay. The segment is just not gross. Mailbag, right? This is mailbag. Sort of. A mailbag from Instagram. Elise, you read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is very relevant to our previous panel episode. We had a lovely listener, Eddie Areola. I'm probably pronouncing that so wrong. Areola.
That's how I would have said it.
You probably rolled R's, but anyway. He said, hey guys, I used to tutor anatomy and physiology. So yes, testicles are not symmetrical, but they're pulled from, pun not intended, equally when ejaculating. Just like both kidneys filter blood, both testes contribute semen to ejaculate, the noun, not the verb. The reason one hangs lower is because it's the only way to fit 2 testes, the body likes redundancy, between the legs without mashing them together too much. Think of it like breasts, too. Breasts aren't symmetrical, but they both usually produce milk when lactating. Feel free to hit me up with any A&P questions.
I like that his last name is Areola.
A&P?
I know that's
yeah. No, someone had to
anatomy and physiology.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So I don't have to Google that phrase ever again. Now we have the answer to that question.
Cool.
This is another mailbag. So that was a mailbag from Instagram. This is a mailbag from our
Cinnamon Court?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a hybrid. I guess
I haven't done that in a while.
Let's not call it that because we don't know. I don't know if we're taking the devil's advocates. We don't know who's taking what side. So let's just read this and we'll figure it out.
Instagram question from Wurgler.
Oh, this is another Instagram one.
Wait, I love that name, at Wurgler.
I had to type that out and I had to make sure I got the right number.
Wurgler. I love that.
AKA KW Nesty Nest formally.
That's the formally.
Do you think you could pose a question to your readers, followers, writers, broadcasters? Don't you think a calendar year Triple Crown is antithetical to thru-hiking? I guess mostly the ones that hop around cherry-picking trail sections. But even hiking the trails consecutively in 1 year seems like a lot of waste and pollution generated. When a thru-hike is about simplicity, LNT, and just being out there. Calendar year Triple Crowning seems to be taking off, and it really seems to miss the point, I think. But fuck it. Hike your own hike, they say. Just wish it wasn't so hyped. The footprint of hopping on flights like that just seems really absurd in the light of walking across the country. Thanks for your time. I enjoy your content. Thoughts?
Yes. Specific sentence that stands out to me: when a through hike is about simplicity, LNT, and just being out there, and then going on to say, fuck it, hike your own hike, they say. I think one thing to remember is, to the person writing this, a through hike is about simplicity, leave no trace, and just being out there. But for everyone, that might not be what a through hike's about. Like, it should be about leave no trace for everyone. But for some people, a through hike might not be about simplicity, and it might not be about just being out there. For some people, a through hike might be about pushing their body to the absolute extremes and seeing how far they can go before they crash, and like things that are different. So if we're going with hike your own hike, I think it's important to remember that not everyone views a through hike that way, and like whatever your stance is on how like it affects like the environment and like how, you know, the footprint you're leaving and all of that, that might not be something that someone considers when they plan a through hike, because that might not be something that's important to them, and that sucks. But that might not be the priorities and the thought process behind a through hike for everyone.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think that hike your own hike thing is an important thing to acknowledge. Obviously, leave no trace. So I think the general definition of hike your own hike, where like the boundaries need to be set, is as long as it's not impacting other people. So like when you're not following leave no trace, you're fucking up other people's hikes and you're an asshole. It doesn't apply there. To the point of it being a larger drain on the environment, it's an interesting point. However, what is that, 2 or 3 flights? Like, I feel like the average person is probably doing that in a year regardless.
Yeah, and I think one through hike, you're already taking 2 flights usually. But I think what they're specifically talking about is there are people who will, for doing the calendar year triple, they'll say they'll do the southern half of the AT. Then they'll fly and do the desert of the PCT.
Right.
Then they'll fly back to the northern half of the AT. Then they'll fly back, do the Sierra. Then they'll fly back, do part of the CDT. Like, I think that's specifically, my guess, what they're talking about. But even if they are just saying, you know, you do the throughs 3 in a row.
Yeah, but you're not chartering a private jet. Those planes are flying no matter what. I know that's like a shitty way to look at it, but
I mean, flying, I learned recently, is one of like the largest carbon emissions, like forms of travel. It's like flying is first, but driving your car by yourself is second.
You get like 3 or 4 people doing a calendar year triple.
That was my point.
So it's like if there's 3 or 4 people doing that compared to the amount of other people that are like backpacking Southeast Asia or like Euro tripping
or going to Comic-Con. Like, think about any like large conference that's drawing in tens of thousands of people from around the country or world. Like, I think we have to weigh the relative impact of this versus other things. Is it the most environmentally friendly thing? No. But is it the biggest fish that we need to fry in terms of addressing climate change? Like, obviously you want to walk the walk, potentially pun intended with that. But given the number of people that are doing this, as Chaunce pointed out, I don't like. It's just not the thing that we should be focusing on. I think industrial pollution is like what 75%.
I was gonna say also BP exists.
Well, if you want to go into all of that, it's like, okay, look at all the different things. Then are we gonna say that like the 75% of people that start off on the AT and don't finish it, because statistically only a fourth people finish it? Are those 75 people, you know, doing a bad thing by flying out there, quitting within the first month, and then flying home when they could have just never gone in the first place? Like, there's so many ways you can spin it where it's like doing a calendar year triple is not a popular enough thing where it's leaving an impact from a large amount of people, I feel like. I feel like if you're going for what's doing more, the amount of people that fly to a trail, leave a trail, and go back home, those flights add up way more than the person that's bouncing from trail to trail to fit them in a year.
Yeah. I do think it's a fair point. It's not the most environmentally friendly thing, but do I think getting rid of calendar year triple crowning, is that going to save the environment or even have even the smallest impact? No.
But how much is that person not driving a car during the time that they're hiking?
Right.
You know, how much is that person not using water, you know, when they're not running showers every day and they're showering once a week? Like, I think that person in the calendar year is cutting so many more things that it's got to equate somehow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Using less trash. There's a lot of things. Not
flushing the toilet. You know, like
through hiking is a way more sustainable practice than just your average day of life. Elise, you had something you want to say.
I was just going to say, if you are a person who wants to do the calendar year Triple Crown and you're genuinely concerned about your impact, you can offset your emissions. Like you can either buy carbon offsetting or you could, adjust your life beforehand, or like you guys are saying, think about what impacts you won't be having and see how that nets out carbon wise. Like there's calculators and stuff where you can figure that out.
Very good point. Also, I mean, I don't know who's hyping it up. We've done a couple of calendar year Triple Crown episodes. It's been a long time since we've done one. Quite frankly, like I feel it's not that interesting of a thing anymore. Like it's obviously a huge feat, but it's been done, so it's hard to get excited about when. It's hard to get too excited about when someone does it, just because like it's not a novel thing at this point. It's like FKTs. It's like I know it's super hard. It takes all of your soul, but at the end of the day, these things break every year. So unless like you're a hardcore endurance athlete or you're really wrapped specifically into that sport, like I feel like the general backpacker's interest in that is just waning, because it's just like, yeah, it broke again.
I mean, as a spectator sport, yeah, but I think like when you go into the idea that through hiking is for simplicity, if you're doing something that is that large and requires that much speed and like focus, it's not about simplicity for you. Like when we interviewed Legend, we asked him when he was doing his FKTs, like when he was going to stop once he was super gluing his feet together. The answer was when I see how far I can push myself. For some people, it's that physical feat of seeing how far your body can go. And, the things that other people take as, the themes behind through hiking or the reasons why it's great just don't apply to those scenarios. But I don't know. I feel like so few people do the calendar year triple that it's like, why would we focus on such a small percentage of the people that through hike and then be like, you guys are,
You're the problem.
Yeah, no. I would say, like, let's find something that the larger amount of us do and bitch about that.
Yeah. It sounds like there's maybe general consensus around this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Not
Sorry to get heaty at you, Whitzler, what's his name?
Well, and I think maybe just to give voice to the person who wrote in, I think maybe to your point, Chaunce, in this person's thought process, it's antithetical to through hiking because to them it is a very specific thing. Like it's good for, they probably also view it as something that's very tied to the environment.
Yeah, but you can't throw out hike your own hike if it's hike your own hike as long as it's my hike. Like that's the one thing I think sorry, glur, but it's like if you, but you can't say this is, this is what a through hike is about, but fuck it, hike your own hike, they say. But it's like, do you mean that? Because you're hiking your own hike, but you have fault with other people hiking the hike that they want to hike.
Maybe they were just floating the theoretical question though. And maybe now that they'll agree with us.
I mean, I'm just trying to stir up.
We've turned it into a segment for sure.
I want to stir it up.
Although, I mean, I guess to go against what I originally said is hike your own hike applies as long as you're not impacting somebody else's hike. You could make that statement with your environmental footprint. Like your environmental footprint does affect. You can make
that statement with your snoring in the shelter. Could be affecting my hike.
Yeah, if you snore in the shelter, don't through hike. Go home, bother your wife, because you are a guy. You definitely are. You're like a 60-year-old guy with a mustache. You're a retired firefighter. Your name is Rick. Just go home, Rick. You're ruining everyone's hike.
I just think there's like a lot of different people in the world with a lot of different motives and a lot of different things that get them going about certain things. And like we can't just expect everyone on the trail to want to do things the way we want to. And we have to, just like when we're sharing a campsite with like a bunch of campers and their kids, and it's like, okay, they're making some noise, but also they're campers and kids, and we have to share the space. Same type of thing. We have to share the trails with everyone who wants to do the trails for different reasons, whatever their reasons might be. And as long as they're following Leave No Trace and like not trashing the trail, I don't think we should be giving people shit for the motives behind what they're doing or how they're doing it.
I have to say something. Rick, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. I shouldn't have said that to you. I know we go way back.
Who's Rick?
The person that Zach just made up that snores in the shelter.
Oh, okay. You lost me in that meantime.
I just hope you can find it deep in your heart to forgive me. Those were some crazy times, man. We had a really good time. We did it. You and I, we did it, but I'm sorry. Okay.
That was interesting. Weird.
Are we done with the show?
Yeah.
'Kay.
Sorry to whoever KW Nesty Nest. I just wanted to like get heated about something to end this.
That's fair.
I was feeling a little.
It's
feisty.
a controversial topic.
Yeah, but like I'm sure I could have found like really good ways to agree with them too. I just like went the bashing route. So
We don't prepare for these things, and we just kind of talk off the cuff. So
Yeah.
that's what you get with the podcast. Thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Andrew, Jason Lawrence, Christopher Marshburn, Sawyer Products, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, and Patrick Cianciolo. I don't blame anyone for dropping out of our Patreon. We've been terrible at giving anybody any extra stuff. But super love the people.
Of all the people.
The people that are our Chuck Norris Award winners. Like, let's just say their name again because they're so...
Do it backwards this time. Read it all backwards.
Yeah. Cianciolo, Patrick Stenberg, Brent, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Sawyer Products, Christopher Marshburn. He's been on this list forever.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. And he sent us stuff. He sent us that
the
awesome the Katahdin sign. He sent us the
Coasters?
abstract paints original
he send the
drawing.
coasters?
The coasters were from Ian something. He was supposed to be a trail.
Right?
He was supposed to be a trail correspondent, and then like the World did the whole thing. That thing. Jason Lawrence, thank you, and Andrew, who doesn't even need his last name involved. Thank you to you guys.
Can we just start crying after we say the word Andrew?
Yeah. We're done making promises for what's happening on Patreon because like we genuinely mean it when we say it, and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
We have busy lives, and like we've learned that our intentions don't actually match up to our output. So
We're all talk.
We just thank you for your support. And any way you can give it, whether you're a Chuck Norris Award winner, whether you're a lower level supporter, or whether you're just somebody who listens to the podcast. I'm talking to you, Rick, man. I really miss you, buddy. We've had some good times, bud.
We can actually say it helps keep the lights on because we just got these lights.
And they're burning. These lights are burning.
So it literally helps
They're
keep the lights on.
You're adding new lights and you're burning the place down. Thank you so much. You can follow us on social at Backpacker Radio on Instagram, at BackpackerPod on Twitter, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Elise
at eliseott on Instagram and eliseott on YouTube.
You can find me at Juliana_Chauncey on Instagram, julianachauncey on pretty much the internet, and you can get my book Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends on Amazon.
Oh, you got
if
that
you're
down now.
Planning an upcoming hike.
You've got that down.
That's just if we tally each episode and how many times I get it right versus how many times I fuck it up, I'm definitely still in the negatives. Like I've messed it up more than I've gotten it right.
But if you were a professional baseball player, that would put you in the All-Star game.
Yeah, sure.
So
baseball
stuff.
Baseball stuff.
Thank you so much for listening and happy hiking.
Bye.
See ya.